Billionaire CEO fired his secretary on Christmas Eve. Years later she returned as his biggest investor with his secret twins. I have 2 children you've never met. The boardroom went silent. 7 words delivered in a voice as cold as the December snow falling outside the Manhattan high-rise. Declan Mercer froze at the head of the conference table, his hands still hovering over the quarterly reports that suddenly meant nothing. The woman standing before him wore power like armor. Auburn hair swept back. Green eyes that once looked at him with love now held only ice. And beside her, 2 7-year-olds with his steel blue eyes stared at him with curious intensity. "They're mine," she continued, her voice steady as a surgeon's hand. "All of them are yours, Declan. Meet Rory and Sienna. Your children. The ones you never knew existed because 7 years ago, you fired me on Christmas Eve while I was carrying them." Every board member turned to stare at him. The resemblance was undeniable. The boy had dark hair, his jawline. The girl had his stubborn chin, his intense gaze. Both had eyes the exact shade of steel blue that stared back at him from the mirror every morning. "Isla," he whispered, the name catching in his throat like broken glass. "It's Miss Brennan in a professional context, Mr. Mercer." She opened her laptop with calm precision. "Now, shall we discuss why your company is failing and how my $200 million investment comes with conditions you're not going to like? Have you ever made a choice that destroyed everything that mattered? Have you ever thrown away love for ambition, only to realize years later that you traded your soul for success that tastes like ash?" Declan Mercer built a $3 billion luxury retail empire. He commanded boardrooms across the globe. He had wealth, power, and respect. But standing in that conference room, staring at 2 children he'd never met and the woman he discarded like yesterday's stock report, he realized he was bankrupt in everything that truly counted. 7 years of birthdays. 7 years of first steps and first words. 7 years of bedtime stories and scraped knees and "I love you, Daddy." Gone. Vanished. Thrown away because he chose a merger over the woman carrying his children. Could any amount of money buy back that time? Would these 2 strangers ever call him Dad and mean it? Could a woman who built a $500 million empire from the ashes of his betrayal ever forgive him? Or would his desperate attempt to become the father he should have been end in the rejection he absolutely deserved? If you've ever chosen ambition over love and spent years regretting it, this story will cut you to the bone. If you've ever wondered whether redemption is possible after catastrophic mistakes, stay with me. Because what happens next will challenge everything you think you know about success, family, and what it really means to come home. Hit that like button if you believe people can change. Subscribe to Mr. Stephen's Stories for tales that transform how you see the world. And drop a comment telling me, do people who abandon their families deserve a second chance? Because Declan Mercer is about to find out the hard way that earning back what you threw away costs more than any fortune can buy. Now let me take you back to where it all fell apart. Back to the night Declan Mercer made the worst decision of his life. 7 years earlier. Christmas Eve. The executive floor of Mercer Global Holdings hummed with the subdued energy of a company winding down for the holidays. Most employees had left early, rushing home to families and Christmas trees and the warmth of people who loved them. The floor was nearly empty, just a few stragglers finishing last-minute tasks before the long weekend. Isla Brennan sat at her desk outside Declan Mercer's corner office, carefully wrapping the gift she'd bought him 3 weeks ago. A vintage fountain pen, the kind he'd mentioned admiring once during a late-night strategy session when they'd worked past midnight. She'd saved for it, spending more than she should have on a secretary's salary, but she wanted it to be perfect. Her hand drifted to her stomach, feeling the slight swell beneath her silk blouse. 8 weeks along. The doctor had confirmed it 3 days ago, and Isla had been carrying the secret like a precious jewel, waiting for exactly the right moment to tell him. Tonight felt perfect. Christmas Eve. The office would be empty in an hour. She'd made a reservation at Café Milano, that small Italian restaurant where they'd first crossed the line from professional to personal 6 months ago. She could still remember that night. The way he'd looked at her across the candlelight. The way he'd taken her hand and said, "I know this is complicated, Isla, but I can't pretend anymore. I'm in love with you." The memory made her smile as she tied the ribbon on his gift. Everything was going to change tonight. They'd have to be more careful at the office, more discreet, but they could make it work. They loved each other. And now they are going to have a baby. Her intercom buzzed, shattering her thoughts. "Isla, my office. Now." His tone sent ice down her spine. Clipped. Cold. Nothing like the warm voice that whispered endearments against her skin just last weekend. She smoothed her skirt, picked up the wrapped gift, and walked through the door that connected her desk to his private office. Declan stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, his back to her, shoulders rigid beneath his custom Italian suit. Snow fell on the Manhattan skyline beyond the glass, peaceful and beautiful. But there was nothing peaceful about the tension radiating from him. On his desk, she saw termination paperwork. The distinctive HR forms she processed for other employees. Her stomach clenched. "Declan." Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "What's going on?" He turned, and his face was a stranger's face. Cold. Corporate. Detached. Every trace of the man who'd held her last Saturday night was gone, replaced by the ruthless CEO she'd only seen in board meetings. "I'm letting you go, effective immediately." The words didn't make sense. They were sounds without meaning, like a foreign language she'd never learned. The gift box felt suddenly heavy in her hands. What? She searched his face for any sign this was some kind of terrible joke. Why? Did I do something wrong? The reports, the presentation for the Tokyo investors, I can fix whatever. Genevieve is joining the company. His voice was flat, emotionless, like he was reading stock prices. She'll be taking over as Chief Strategy Officer. She needs someone in the executive assistant role who understands her working style. Someone from her previous team is transferring here in the new year. Genevieve Ashford. The hotel heiress. Her family owned properties in 17 countries, and had connections that made even Declan's network look small. Isla had met her once, at a charity gala 3 months ago. She'd watched the woman look at Declan like he was a prize racehorse she was considering purchasing. "You're firing me?" The words came out as a whisper. On Christmas Eve? For her. It's a business decision, Isla. His use of her first name felt like a slap after the cold Mr. Mercer formality. You'll receive 6 months severance. That's more than generous. My lawyers have also drafted an NDA regarding our personal relationship. You'll need to sign it before you leave. Our personal relationship. He said it like it was a minor inconvenience. A legal liability to be managed and contained. The gift box slipped from her fingers, hitting the plush carpet with a soft thud that sounded like her heart breaking. Declan, I need to tell you something important. Her hand moved instinctively to her stomach. There's something you need to know before. Whatever it is, it's no longer relevant. He picked up the termination papers and held them out to her like they were just another contract to sign. We both knew this was temporary, Isla. You're an excellent secretary, but I need someone who can operate at a strategic level. Genevieve brings connections, capital, understanding of the luxury market that you simply don't have. Each word was a knife. Excellent secretary. Strategic level. Simply don't have. Reducing their 6 months together, their love, their future, to a performance review. Is this about her family's money? Isla heard her voice rising but couldn't stop it. Her connections. Is that what I lack, Declan? The right last name? The right pedigree? It's about what's best for Mercer Global. He was already turning back to his computer screen, dismissing her. The car service will take you home. Security will box up your desk and have everything delivered tomorrow. I trust you'll be professional about this. Professional. The word tasted like poison. Declan. She tried one more time, her voice breaking. Please. Just listen to me for 1 minute. That's Mr. Mercer. His voice cut across hers like a blade. We need to maintain appropriate boundaries going forward. Sign the papers, Isla. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. She stood there, one hand still protecting the secret growing inside her, the other holding termination papers that ended 7 months of her life. The man she loved, the father of her child, wouldn't even look at her. Was already clicking through emails like she'd ceased to exist. Isla bent down slowly, picked up the wrapped gift from the carpet, and set it on his desk. Her hands didn't shake. Some distant part of her brain marveled at that. She felt like she was breaking into a million pieces, but her hands were steady. I won't sign your NDA. Her voice came out calm, clear. And I don't want your severance money. Keep it. You're going to need it more than I will. She walked out of his office, through the empty executive floor, past the elevators to the stairs because she couldn't bear to wait in that small space. Her work badge was already deactivated. The security guard at the lobby desk looked uncomfortable as he took it from her, clearly having been briefed on her termination. Outside, snow fell on Fifth Avenue. Christmas lights twinkled in store windows. Families rushed past her, loaded with shopping bags and laughter. Someone was singing carols on the corner. The whole world was celebrating while Isla's was ending. She stood on the sidewalk, one hand on her belly, and made a decision. If Declan Mercer wanted to choose money and status over love, he could live with that choice. But he would never know about these babies. They were hers. Hers to protect. Hers to raise. Hers to love. He'd thrown her away like she was nothing. Well, this something growing inside her, this precious life, would never know the pain of being disposable to him. She would survive this. She would build a life for her child. And Declan Mercer would be nothing but a ghost, a mistake she'd learned from and left behind. The next morning, Christmas Day, Isla sat in an examination room at Mount Sinai Hospital. The emergency room was quieter than she'd expected. Most people were home with their families, opening presents, making memories. She wore a paper gown and tried not to think about the fact that 24 hours ago, she'd been planning to tell Declan about the baby over candlelight and wine. Well, sparkling cider for her. She'd imagined his face when she told him. The joy. The fear. The wonder. Instead, she sat alone in a hospital exam room, waiting for the doctor to come back with her ultrasound results. When Dr. Patel returned, she was smiling. Miss Brennan, there's something you need to see on the ultrasound. Is something wrong? Isla's hand went to her stomach protectively. Wrong? No. Extraordinary? Yes. Dr. Patel turned the screen so Isla could see the grainy black and white image. You're not having a baby, Miss Brennan. You're having babies. Twins. The room tilted. Isla stared at the screen, at the two distinct shapes, each with a tiny flickering heartbeat. The odds are about 1 in 30 for fraternal twins, Dr. Patel continued. Do twins run in your family? Isla shook her head, unable to speak. 2 babies. She'd been fired yesterday, had maybe 3 months' rent saved, no job, no health insurance after the end of the month, and now 2 babies to care for. Is there a father in the picture? Dr. Patel's voice was gentle. You're going to need support, Miss Brennan. A twin pregnancy is higher risk. You'll need. No. The word came out firm, final. No father. Just me. Dr. Patel's expression softened with understanding and perhaps a touch of sadness. Well then. Let's talk about what you need to know. For the next 7 years, it was just Isla. Just her against the world. The pregnancy was brutal. High-risk complications at month 5 landed her in the hospital for 3 months of bed rest. Her mother, who'd been enjoying retirement in Florida, moved back to New York to help. Gave up her small house, her bridge club, her whole life to support her daughter. Isla gave birth at 32 weeks. 2 tiny babies, each weighing less than 4 pounds. Rory came first, screaming his fury at the world. Sienna followed 2 minutes later, quieter but with eyes that seemed to see everything. 6 weeks in the NICU. 6 weeks of sitting beside incubators, talking to her babies through the plastic, learning to feed them through tubes, praying they'd survive. The medical bills piled up like snow, and Isla's savings evaporated. When the twins finally came home, Isla's mother set up camp in the tiny 1-bedroom apartment. They took shifts. 3-hour cycles of feeding, changing, soothing. Isla would sleep for 2 hours, wake to crying, spend an hour getting both babies settled, and sleep for another hour if she was lucky. At 3 months, she had to go back to work. Had to. The money was gone. She took a job as a night receptionist at a boutique hotel because the pay was better and her mother could watch the babies while she worked. During the day, while her mother slept, Isla cared for the twins and sent out resumes. Hundreds of resumes. Every rejection felt like a door slamming in her face. When the twins were 18 months old, Rory had a seizure. Isla had to choose which bill not to pay so she could afford the emergency room visit. She chose the electric bill. They lived by candlelight for 3 days until her next paycheck cleared. But she also started pitching investors. It started with an idea. A business plan she'd worked on during those long NICU nights, sitting beside her baby's incubators. She'd seen the problems in retail from the inside, working at Mercer Global. Seen the digital revolution coming while executives like Declan clung to tradition. She knew she could build something better. Something that bridged luxury and accessibility, online and offline. She just needed someone to believe in her. 47 investors said no. 47 polite rejections. You lack experience. You have no track record. A secretary with no business degree asking for seed capital. Come back when you have credentials. The 48th investor was Margaret Chen. A 70-year-old woman who'd built her own fortune from a food cart in Chinatown, growing it into a restaurant empire. She looked at Isla across the coffee shop table, looked at the twins sleeping in their double stroller, and said, "How much do you need?" 50,000, Isla said. 6 months to prove the concept. Margaret wrote the check that day. You remind me of myself 40 years ago, she said. Hungry. Desperate. Underestimated. Don't make me regret this. Isla didn't. She turned that 50,000 into 500,000 in 4 months. Built an online platform that connected independent designers with consumers looking for unique luxury pieces. Took a percentage of each sale. Reinvested every penny. Within a year, she had 5 million. Within 2 years, 50 million. By the time the twins were 5, Brennan Equity Partners was a name in venture capital. Isla had a gift for spotting failing companies, forcing out incompetent leadership, and rebuilding them from the ground up. She became known as a shark. Ruthless. Brilliant. Unforgiving of waste and ego. If a CEO couldn't justify their decisions, Isla took their company apart and sold it for pieces. She had no patience for men who thought their corner offices made them untouchable. She'd learned that lesson from Declan Mercer. She learned it and never forgot. By the time the twins turned 7, Isla Brennan was worth $500 million. She lived in a comfortable brownstone in Brooklyn, drove a sensible car, dressed her children in normal clothes from normal stores. The money sat in investments and trusts, building security for a future she'd once thought impossible. And through it all, the twins asked about their father. "Mommy, why don't we have a daddy?" Sienna asked when she was 4. Some families have 2 parents, sweetie. Some have 1. We're a one-parent family, and that's okay. But why? Rory pressed. Did he die? No, baby. He made a choice. He chose something else instead of us. What did he choose? His work. His company. Things he thought were more important. Are we important, Mommy? You're the most important thing in the world. But as the years passed and the questions continued, Isla realized she couldn't keep Declan a secret forever. The twins deserved to know where they came from. Deserved the chance to meet their father, even if he turned out to be a disappointment. So she did her research. Found out that Mercer Global was struggling. The digital revolution Isla had predicted was crushing traditional retail. Declan's company was bleeding market share, hemorrhaging money, desperately seeking investment capital. And Isla had capital. Lots of it. She also had leverage. And a plan. And 7 years of anger that she'd refined into something cold and surgical. It was time for Declan Mercer to pay for his choices. 7 years after he'd fired her on Christmas Eve, Isla Brennan walked into his boardroom with their children and watched his world shatter. Now, standing in that conference room, watching the color drain from Declan's face as he stared at Rory and Sienna, Isla felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Your company is dying, Mr. Mercer. Her voice was steady, professional. Your digital presence is virtually non-existent. Your customer base is aging out. You've refused to innovate because you believe luxury means tradition. But luxury means exclusivity, not obsolescence. You're not Hermes creating desire with scarcity. You're Blockbuster refusing to see Netflix coming. One of the older board members cleared his throat. Miss Brennan, Mercer Global has a 100-year legacy. Had, she cut him off. Past tense. What you have now is a dying brand that needs $200 million in life support and leadership with the vision to save it. She turned back to Declan, who still hadn't spoken. Hadn't moved. Was just staring at the twins like he was seeing ghosts. My offer is $200 million for 40% equity and 4 board seats. Additionally, I want full operational control for 18 months to implement necessary changes. That's unacceptable, another board member sputtered. We're not handing over control to. Then enjoy bankruptcy. Isla closed her laptop with calm precision. Come on, kids. Mr. Mercer clearly isn't interested in saving his company. She stood, gathering her materials. Rory and Sienna, well trained in business etiquette from attending dozens of meetings with her, stood quietly and collected their tablets. Wait. Declan's voice finally emerged, rough and broken. The children. Are they? Mine, Isla cut him off. They're mine, Mr. Mercer. Come along, Rory, Sienna. She walked toward the door, heels clicking on marble. As she passed Declan, she saw his hand trembling. Saw him staring at the twins with something like anguish on his face. Good. Let him hurt. Let him feel a fraction of what she'd felt that Christmas Eve. Isla. His voice stopped her at the door. Please. We need to talk. It's Miss Brennan in a professional context, Mr. Mercer. She didn't turn around. You have until Friday to accept my offer. After that, I'm investing in the Vanderbilt Retail Group instead. They're smaller, but they're willing to innovate. She left him standing in his own boardroom, surrounded by board members who were already whispering, already judging. Left him with the image of 2 children who had his eyes, his face, his blood. Left him to drown in the consequences of his choices. That night, Declan sat in his penthouse overlooking Central Park and hired a private investigator. By 6 the next morning, he had a file on his desk. Isla Brennan. Age 32. Net worth $500 million. Founder and managing partner of Brennan Equity Partners. Known for aggressive takeovers and complete company restructuring. Reputation for being brilliant and absolutely ruthless. Mother to twins. Rory James Brennan and Sienna Mae Brennan. Age 7. Born September 2nd. Father not listed on birth certificates. Declan stared at that date. September 2nd. Which meant conception would have been early December. Which meant Isla had been 8 weeks pregnant when he fired her on Christmas Eve. The file included photographs. Isla pregnant, her face exhausted and frightened. The twins as tiny infants in incubators, wires and tubes attached to their fragile bodies. First birthday with a homemade cake in what looked like a very small apartment. The children growing up in modest surroundings while their father lived in a penthouse and flew first class and never knew they existed. There were more photos. Recent ones. Professional shots from business magazines. Isla Brennan, the self-made venture capitalist. Isla Brennan, who turned 50,000 into 500 million in 7 years. Isla Brennan with her children at charity events, school functions, normal life moments. A whole life. A whole family. 7 years of moments he'd missed because he'd been too much of a coward to choose love over ambition. Declan made it to his bathroom before he was sick. The next morning, he showed up at Brennan Equity Partners without an appointment. The receptionist tried to turn him away, but Isla emerged from a morning meeting and saw him standing in her lobby. Mr. Mercer. Her voice was cool, professional. I don't recall scheduling a follow-up meeting. They're mine. He said it loud enough that everyone in the lobby could hear. The twins. They're my children. This is not the time or place. Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant? His voice cracked. Isla, why didn't you? Her professional mask shattered. Fire blazed in her eyes. I tried. She stepped closer, voice low and furious. I tried to tell you that night. Do you remember what you said, Declan? You said whatever it is, it's no longer relevant. You handed me termination papers and an NDA. You had security escort me out like I was stealing office supplies. You chose Genevieve Ashford and her family's 17 countries worth of hotel properties over me. I didn't know. Because you didn't want to know. Every word was a blade. I was convenient when you needed me. Excellent secretary, you called me. But not good enough to operate at a strategic level. Not good enough to meet your standards. So you threw me away for someone richer, someone with better connections, someone who could help your precious company. Isla, please. Don't. Her voice dropped to something dangerous. Don't you dare Isla me. Don't stand in my lobby 7 years later and act like you're the victim here. You want to know why I didn't tell you? Because you made it abundantly clear that I was disposable. That we were temporary. That your company mattered more than anything else in your world. Well, congratulations, Declan. You got exactly what you wanted. You got Genevieve. You got her connections. How did that work out for you? She's gone. I fired her last week. Too little, too late. Isla crossed her arms. Her strategic decisions cost you millions. But I'm sure the connections were worth it. I want to meet them. Declan heard the desperation in his own voice. The twins. I want to meet my children. Your children. Isla laughed, cold and sharp. They're not your children, Declan. You're not on their birth certificates. You've never paid a cent of child support. You've never been to a school play or a doctor's appointment or a birthday party. You're a stranger who happens to share their DNA. Let me fix this. His voice broke. Please, Isla. Let me try. I'll do anything. Anything. She studied him with those cool green eyes. Then accept my offer. Every single term. Give me control of your company. Fire every executive who's been driving it into the ground. Prove to me that you can commit to something other than your own ego. Then maybe, we'll talk about you earning the privilege of knowing your children. The privilege. Not the right. The privilege. You're serious. Completely. She turned toward the elevators. You have until Friday, Mr. Mercer. Choose wisely this time. She walked away, leaving him standing in her lobby, surrounded by her employees who'd witnessed the entire exchange. Leaving him as powerless as she'd once been in his office. On Friday, Declan accepted every term. $200 million for 40% equity. For board seats for Isla's chosen directors. 18 months of complete operational control. He signed the papers in a conference room full of lawyers, his own board members looking at him like he'd lost his mind. You're giving her everything, one of them hissed. She'll gut the company. Good, Declan said. It needs gutting. After the lawyers left, after the board members filed out shaking their heads, Isla handed him one more document. What's this? A custody agreement. Her voice was neutral. Supervised visitation. Once a week to start. No gifts to buy affection. No promises you can't keep. And Declan? She met his eyes. If you miss one appointment, if you make one excuse, if you hurt those children in any way, you're done. Do you understand? When? Tomorrow. 2 p.m. Bethesda Fountain in Central Park. Don't be late. I'll be there. We'll see. The next day, Declan arrived at 1:30, too anxious to wait. He stood at a distance, watching. 2 children ran around the fountain, chasing each other and laughing. The boy had his dark hair, his build. The girl had Isla's auburn waves, but his eyes, his expressions. They were beautiful. Perfect. 7 years old and he'd never seen them before. Isla sat on a bench watching them, and for the first time since she'd walked into his boardroom, her face was unguarded. Soft. Full of love as she watched her children play. Their children. Declan approached slowly, afraid if he moved too fast this whole thing would shatter like a dream. Isla saw him first. Her expression shuttered immediately, walls going back up. She called to the twins. Rory, Sienna. Come here, please. The children ran over, then stopped when they saw the stranger. Both studied him with intelligent, curious eyes. This is Mr. Mercer. Isla's voice was careful. He's your father. Sienna tilted her head, examining him like he was a puzzle to solve. You're our dad. Yes. The word caught in his throat like broken glass. I am. Why didn't you come before? Rory asked, direct as a punch to the gut. Declan knelt down to their level, meeting their eyes. Because I made a terrible mistake 7 years ago. I hurt your mother very badly, and I didn't know you existed. That's my fault, not hers. I chose work over people I should have cared about. I was wrong. Mom says being wrong is okay if you learn from it. Rory's voice was thoughtful. Your mother is very wise. Declan looked at Isla, saw tears she was fighting. Wiser than I ever was. The twins studied him in silence. Then Sienna asked, do you want to feed the ducks with us? We brought bread. Something in Declan's chest shattered and rebuilt itself. I would love to. Have you ever watched someone try to earn back what they threw away? Have you ever seen a powerful man humbled by his own mistakes? Declan Mercer spent 7 years building an empire, and 5 minutes realizing that empire meant nothing without family. Comment below if you've ever had to face the consequences of choosing wrong. Hit that subscribe button if you believe redemption is possible. Because what happens next will show you what it really costs to rebuild trust after betrayal. Part 2 is coming, and you won't want to miss how this family finds their way home. The first hour at Bethesda Fountain was awkward in the way only forced family bonding can be. Declan knelt at the fountain's edge, tearing bread into pieces while 2 7-year-olds watched him with cautious curiosity. Isla sat on the bench behind them, a silent guardian ready to intervene at the first sign of trouble. So you really didn't know about us? Sienna asked, handing Declan another piece of bread. Like, you had no idea? I had no idea. Declan tossed bread to a duck that paddled closer. Your mother tried to tell me the night we stopped working together, but I didn't listen. I thought my company was more important than anything else. That was dumb. Rory's assessment was blunt. Mom says nothing's more important than family. Your mother is right. I was very, very dumb. Do you have a family now? Sienna asked. Like, a wife or other kids? No. Just me. And my company. Which is failing because I made bad decisions for 7 years. That's what Mom said in the meeting. Rory grinned. She said you're like Blockbuster refusing to see Netflix coming. I didn't get it, but the board members looked really mad. Despite everything, Declan laughed. That sounds like something your mother would say. She's really smart. Sienna tossed bread to the ducks with careful precision. She built a whole company from $50,000. Grandma Rose says Mom's a genius. She is. Declan glanced back at Isla, who was watching them with unreadable eyes. She always was. I just didn't appreciate it. Why not? Rory's question was guileless, genuinely curious. Because I was looking at the wrong things. I saw money and connections and status. I didn't see what actually mattered. And what matters? Sienna tilted her head, so much like Isla it made Declan's chest ache. This. He gestured to them, to the ducks, to the ordinary moment of feeding birds in the park. Being here. Being with people you love. Your mother figured that out. I'm still learning. The twins exchanged a glance, some silent communication passing between them. Then Sienna said, "We're out of bread. Can we go to the playground?" Declan looked to Isla for permission. She nodded slightly. Sure. Lead the way. He followed them to the playground, hyper-aware of every word, every gesture. These were his children. His blood. 7 years old and complete strangers. They climbed on equipment with the fearlessness of childhood while Declan stood awkwardly to the side, unsure of his role. You can sit, Isla said, appearing beside him. They'll be fine. They sat on a bench together, the first time they'd been this close since that Christmas Eve 7 years ago. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything unsaid. They're incredible. Declan finally broke the quiet. You did an amazing job raising them. I didn't have a choice. Her voice was neutral, but he heard the edge underneath. I know. I'm sorry doesn't begin to cover it, but Isla, I am. I'm so sorry for what I put you through. You put yourself through it too. She watched the twins on the monkey bars. You missed 7 years, Declan. First words. First steps. The night Rory learned to read and was so excited he couldn't sleep. The time Sienna broke her arm falling off her bike and I had to choose between the ER bill and the rent. You missed all of it. Every word was a knife. How did you survive? I got angry. She smiled without humor. Very, very angry. Every investor who turned me down, every person who looked at a secretary with no degree asking for money and laughed, I remembered your face that night. Remembered you calling me an excellent secretary but saying I couldn't operate at a strategic level. I turned that anger into fuel. I destroyed you. No. She turned to face him fully. You destroyed the naive girl who thought love was enough. But that girl became someone stronger. Someone who built a $500 million empire out of spite and determination and refusal to let you break her. So no, Declan. You didn't destroy me. You just made me better than you. The truth of it settled between them. She had won. In every way that mattered, Isla Brennan had won. What do I do now? He asked quietly. How do I fix this? You can't fix it. The past is gone. But you can show up for the future. Every Saturday. Rain or shine. No excuses. No business trips more important than feeding ducks. You prove you've changed through actions, not words. I will. I swear to you, Isla. We'll see. Over the next 4 months, Declan restructured his entire life around those Saturday visits. He cancelled business trips. Rescheduled board meetings. Turned down speaking engagements at conferences that had once seemed essential. His assistant, who'd worked for him for 8 years, watched these changes with barely concealed shock. Mr. Mercer, the Tokyo expansion meeting is the same day as your, she checked her calendar, park visit. Should I reschedule the visit? Reschedule Tokyo. Sir, that's a $12 million deal. Then they can wait a week or do it without me. I'm not missing Saturday. He showed up every week at exactly 2 p.m. Learned that Rory loved science with a passion that bordered on obsession. The boy asked endless questions about how things worked, why planets orbited stars, what made electricity flow. Declan found himself researching answers during the week, wanting to be prepared. Did you know that neutron stars are so dense that a teaspoon of their matter would weigh 1 billion tons? Rory asked during their 3rd visit. I didn't. That's incredible. Right? And they spin super fast. Some of them rotate hundreds of times per second. Hundreds, Dad. Dad. Rory had started using it casually around week 2, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Every time Declan heard it, something in his chest expanded and broke and healed all at once. Sienna was different. She connected through stories and imagination. During their 4th visit, she told him an elaborate tale about how the ducks in the fountain were actually princes and princesses under a spell. And the only way to break the spell is to feed them exactly 42 pieces of bread, she explained with complete seriousness. But it has to be the right kind of bread. Wonder bread doesn't count. What kind does count? She leaned in conspiratorially. Artisan sourdough. Obviously. Obviously. Declan played along, delighted by her creativity. So we need to find artisan sourdough. I brought some. She pulled a bag from her backpack. Mom said I could use the fancy bread today as a special treat. They fed the ducks solemnly, counting each piece. Sienna narrated the breaking of the spell with such conviction that Declan half believed it himself. But Isla remained distant. Professional. She attended every visit, watching from the bench, ready to protect her children from disappointment. She answered Declan's questions about the twins with clinical precision. Rory's favorite color was blue. Sienna was allergic to strawberries. They both did well in school. Rory struggled with reading comprehension but excelled at math. Sienna was the opposite. She never volunteered information about herself. Never let the conversation drift to anything personal. They were co-parents navigating custody, nothing more. Until month 5, when everything shifted. Declan arrived at the park to find only Isla waiting. No twins. Where are they? Panic flared immediately. Are they okay? They're fine. They're at a birthday party for one of Sienna's classmates. Isla gestured to the bench. I thought we should talk. Alone. He sat, heart hammering. This felt like bad news. Like she was ending the visits. The kids are getting attached to you. Her voice was careful. Especially Rory. He talks about you constantly. Dad said this, Dad thinks that. Last night he asked me why you don't live with us. What did you tell him? That it's complicated. That adults need to rebuild trust slowly. She turned to face him. But I need to know, Declan. Is this temporary? When the novelty wears off, when being a weekend dad gets inconvenient, are you going to disappear again? No. The answer came immediately, from somewhere deep and certain. No, Isla. This isn't temporary. These aren't visits I'm enduring. They're the best part of my week. My month. My life. Pretty words. Then let me show you. He pulled out his phone, opened his email, and handed it to her. That's the listing for my penthouse. It went live yesterday. She stared at the screen. You're selling it? Already sold. Closed 3 days ago. He opened another email. This is the contract for a brownstone 3 blocks from your place. I close next month. You bought a house. Her voice was faint. Near us. I want to be close. Not to pressure you, not to force anything, but to be available. When Rory has a nightmare or Sienna needs help with homework or someone's sick in the middle of the night, I want to be there. Not across town in a penthouse. There. With you. Declan. I know it doesn't fix the past. I know it doesn't erase 7 years. But I'm trying to prove that I've changed. That they're my priority now. That you're my priority. Her hand trembled slightly as she handed back his phone. You really sold the penthouse. Listed it the day after our boardroom meeting. That penthouse was everything I thought mattered. The address, the view, the status. It was also the loneliest place I've ever lived. He met her eyes. I don't want to be that person anymore, Isla. The one who values square footage over people. I want to be the dad who shows up. The man who chooses right this time. For the first time in 5 months, her walls cracked. Her eyes filled with tears she fought to hide. Don't hurt them, she whispered. Don't make them love you and then leave. I'll survive it again. But they won't. I won't. He wanted to reach for her hand but didn't, giving her space. I swear to you, Isla. On everything I am and everything I have. I won't leave them. Or you. She wiped her eyes quickly, composing herself. We'll see. But something had shifted. The next Saturday, when Declan arrived, Isla smiled at him. Small, cautious, but real. Baby steps. Month 6 brought the first real test. Declan's phone rang at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. The school's number. His stomach dropped. Mr. Mercer. This is Principal Holloway at Brooklyn Heights Elementary. Rory's been involved in an altercation. Can you come to the school? I'll be there in 20 minutes. He was there at 15. Found Rory sitting on a bench outside the principal's office, a bruise darkening his cheek, his knuckles scraped. Isla was already there, standing with her arms crossed, radiating fury. What happened? Declan asked. Rory won't say. Isla's voice was tight. The principal says he threw the first punch. 3-day suspension. The principal, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, invited them into her office. Rory followed, shoulders hunched. Mr. Mercer, Miss Brennan, I understand this is unusual behavior for Rory. He's typically one of our best students. But he struck another student without provocation during lunch. We have a zero-tolerance policy for violence. Rory, Isla said quietly. Tell us what happened. The boy stayed silent, staring at his scraped knuckles. Rory. Declan knelt in front of his son. Talk to us. Please. Ryan said. Rory's voice was small. He said you only came back because Mom trapped you. He said Mom probably lied about us being yours for the money. He said you'd leave again when you got bored. Declan's hands clenched into fists. He very carefully unclenched them. So you hit him. He called Mom a liar. Rory's eyes flashed with anger. He said terrible things. So yeah, I hit him. The principal cleared her throat. Regardless of provocation, violence is. I understand. Declan cut her off gently. But I'd like to take Rory home now. We'll discuss appropriate ways to handle conflict. The suspension is noted. Outside the school, Isla turned to Declan. I can handle this. You don't have to. Yes, I do. He looked at Rory. How about you and I take a drive, buddy? Just us guys. Isla hesitated, then nodded. Dinner's at 6. Have him back by then. In the car, Rory was silent. Declan drove without destination, giving the boy time. Your mom says you've never been in a fight before. Silence. Must have been pretty serious to make you that angry. More silence. Then, quietly, how would you know what's like me? You've been around for what, 6 months? The word stung, but Declan acknowledged their truth. Fair point. I'm still learning who you are. But your mother says fighting isn't like you. So it must have been something serious. Rory stared out the window. He said you probably aren't even our real dad. He said Mom just picked some rich guy who looks like us and made up the whole story for money. Declan pulled into an empty parking lot and turned to face his son. What Ryan said was completely wrong. On every single count. How do you know? Because I have the DNA test results. 99.99% match. You and Sienna are mine. Biologically, legally, and if you'll let me, by choice. By choice. I'm not here because I have to be, Rory. I'm here because I want to be. Because you two are the best thing that ever happened to me, even if I was too stupid to realize it 7 years ago. Rory studied his father's face, looking for deception. Did you really not know about us? I really didn't. Your mother tried to tell me that night, and I was so focused on work, so obsessed with my company, that I told her it wasn't relevant. I didn't let her finish. That's on me, not her. Ryan also said. Rory hesitated. He said Mom must have been desperate to sleep with her boss. That she probably threw herself at you. Rage, white-hot and instant, flooded Declan. He breathed through it. That is absolutely not what happened. Your mother and I fell in love. We kept it secret because office relationships are complicated, but it was real, Rory. And I'm the one who ruined it. I chose ambition over love. I made the worst decision of my life. Your mother did nothing wrong. Then why did you fire her? Because I was scared. Scared of being a partner, of building a life with someone, of anything that might interfere with my company. I thought success meant corner offices and profit margins. I was wrong. Do you still think that? No. Declan met his son's eyes. I'd give up everything I have, every dollar, every company, every success, for you and your sister and your mother. Really? Really? Want to know what I did last week? Turned down a $12 million deal because the meeting conflicted with our Saturday visit. Rory's eyes widened. 12 million. Doesn't matter. You matter more. Something in the boy's expression shifted. The wall he'd been maintaining crumbled slightly. I'm not sorry I punched Ryan. Declan suppressed a smile. Violence isn't the answer. But standing up for your family? I understand that completely. When I was your age, I broke another kid's nose for saying something about my mom. Really? Really? Got grounded for a month. But my dad, your grandfather, he told me something I never forgot. He said fighting is never the answer, but standing up for people you love is always worth doing. You just have to learn how to stand up without using your fists. How? We'll figure it out together. Declan started the car. How about we stop for ice cream? And maybe we don't mention to your mother that I told you about breaking that kid's nose. Rory grinned, the first genuine smile he'd directed at Declan in days. Deal. At 6 p.m., Declan returned Rory to Isla's brownstone. She answered the door, saw her son smile, and some of the tension left her shoulders. "Everything okay?" "Everything's good, Mom." Rory hugged her, then ran inside calling for Sienna. Isla looked at Declan questioningly. "We talked. Had ice cream. Came to an understanding about appropriate ways to handle conflict. Did that understanding include anything I should know about?" Declan smiled. "Just guy talk. But he's okay. We're okay. Thank you." The words came quietly. "For being there. For showing up. Always." Month 8 changed everything. It was a Thursday night. Declan was in his new brownstone, unpacking boxes, when his phone rang. Isla's name on the screen sent his heart racing. She never called during the week. "Isla." Her voice was shaking. "There's something wrong with Sienna. We're at Mount Sinai. They're running tests. Can you?" She broke off. "Can you come?" "I'm on my way." He was there in 12 minutes, parking illegally and running into the emergency room. Found them in a curtained area. Sienna on a hospital bed, looking small and scared. Rory pressed against his mother's side. Isla white-faced and trembling. "What happened?" Declan asked. She collapsed. Isla's voice was barely audible. "At her school play. Just collapsed on stage. They did an EKG and the doctor said." She couldn't finish. "What did the doctor say?" A nurse pulled the curtain back. "Mr. and Miss Brennan. Dr. Martinez would like to speak with you." In a small consultation room, Dr. Martinez, a calm woman in her 50s, laid out the situation. "Sienna has a congenital heart defect. It's not uncommon, but in her case, it's been growing. We need to do more tests, but she's likely going to need surgery." "Surgery?" Isla swayed slightly. Declan caught her elbow, steadying her. "It's high risk," the doctor continued gently. "But without it, the defect will continue to grow. We need to act relatively quickly." "How quickly?" "Ideally within the next 2 weeks." After the doctor left, Isla broke. 7 years of strength, 7 years of holding everything together, crumbled. She bent forward, hands over her face, and sobbed. Declan pulled her into his arms without thinking. She didn't pull away. Clung to him instead, crying into his shoulder while Rory watched with frightened eyes. "What if I lose her?" Isla whispered against his shirt. "Declan, what if?" "You won't. We won't." He held her tighter. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." For 3 days, they lived in the hospital. Sienna was stable but scared, asking for both her parents. Declan slept in a chair beside her bed. Isla in the other chair. Rory on a cot the nurses brought in. They took turns reading to Sienna. Answering her questions about the surgery with careful honesty. Holding her hand when she cried. "Will it hurt?" she asked Declan on the second night. "For a little while. But then you'll feel so much better. And your mom and I will be right here when you wake up. Promise?" "I promise, princess." The night before surgery, after Sienna finally fell asleep and Rory was dozing on his cot, Isla stood at the window staring out at the city lights. "I can't lose her," she said quietly. "I can't, Declan. Not after everything." "You won't." He came to stand beside her. "She's strong. Like her mother. I should have noticed something was wrong. I'm her mother, I should have." "Stop." He turned her to face him gently. "You couldn't have known. The doctor said it was hidden, that it grew slowly. This isn't your fault. 7 years." Her voice broke. 7 years of doctor's appointments and school physicals and no one caught it. But they caught it now. In time. She's going to be okay. How do you know? Because I have to believe it. Because the alternative is unthinkable. He pulled her close again, and she let him. I'm so sorry, Isla. For not being here. For 7 years of this. Every fever, every fear, every crisis. You faced it all alone. I was so angry at you. She set it into his shoulder. For so long. I know. But watching you these past months. The way you show up. The way you love them. Her breath hitched. You're not the same man who fired me on Christmas Eve. No. I'm not. That man was a fool. The surgery took 4 hours. Declan and Isla sat side by side in the waiting room, holding hands without discussing it. Rory dozed against his mother's shoulder. They didn't talk. Didn't need to. Just held on to each other and waited. When Dr. Martinez emerged, still in scrubs, they both stood. The surgery was successful. The doctor smiled. She's going to need recovery time and monitoring, but Sienna's going to be fine. Isla's knees buckled. Declan caught her, held her while she cried with relief. Rory wrapped his arms around both of them. In the recovery room, Sienna was groggy from anesthesia. Her eyes fluttered open, saw both parents beside her bed, and smiled. Dad stayed, she whispered to Isla. Yeah, baby. He stayed. In the weeks that followed, something fundamental shifted. Declan was there for every doctor's appointment. Every physical therapy session. He learned Sienna's medication schedule, drove to medical appointments, sat with her during recovery exercises. And Isla stopped fighting it. Stopped maintaining walls. Started accepting that maybe, just maybe, Declan had actually changed. 2 months after Sienna's surgery, the twins came to Declan's brownstone for the first time. Isla came too, helping them settle in for their first overnight visit. Your house is really nice, Dad. Rory examined everything with scientific interest. But it's kind of empty. I just moved in. Declan shrugged. Haven't had time to make it feel like home yet. We could help. Sienna suggested. We're good at decorating. We helped Mom with her office. I'd love that. They spent the afternoon hanging artwork the twins had made. By dinner time, Declan's sterile brownstone looked lived in. Loved in. After the twins were asleep in their new bedrooms, Declan found Isla in the kitchen making tea. Thank you, he said. For trusting me with them overnight. You've earned it. She accepted the mug he offered. 3 months of showing up, Declan. Every single time. Even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. He leaned against the counter. Isla, I need to tell you something. She waited, wary. I love you. The words came out simple, honest. I never stopped. 7 years of trying to convince myself I'd made the right choice, and I never stopped loving you. I know I don't deserve another chance. I know I hurt you in ways I can't fix. But I need you to know. You're not just the mother of my children. You're the love of my life. You always were. She set down her mug with trembling hands. Declan. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know. You broke me. Her voice was barely audible. That Christmas Eve, you broke something in me I didn't think could heal. I know. I'm so sorry. But watching you these past months. Watching you become the father they deserve. Watching you choose them over everything else. She looked up at him with eyes full of tears. That broken thing. It's healing. Isla. I'm not saying I'm ready. I'm not saying we pick up where we left off. Too much has happened. But. She took a shaky breath. But I'm not saying no either. Hope, dangerous and bright, bloomed in Declan's chest. What are you saying? I'm saying let's see. Let's keep doing this. Co-parenting. Building trust. Being friends. And maybe, eventually, we figure out if we can be more. I'll wait as long as you need. She smiled through her tears. Good. Because it might be a while. I have time. He smiled back. All the time in the world. Christmas Eve arrived with fresh snow and the weight of 7 years. Declan stood in Isla's brownstone, watching her hang ornaments with the twins. 7 years to the day since he'd destroyed everything. Can I talk to you? He asked quietly. Outside. Isla looked surprised but nodded. The twins exchanged knowing glances. On the small balcony off her living room, snow fell softly around them. The city twinkled below. They stood close enough to touch, warm in winter coats. 7 years ago tonight, Declan began, I made the worst decision of my life. I threw away the woman I loved and children I didn't know I had. I've spent this year trying to prove I've changed. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Isla's eyes widened. I'm not asking you to forget. I can't undo the past. But I'm asking for a chance to build a new future. He opened the box. A simple ring, elegant and understated. Nothing flashy. Just real. Marry me, Isla. Not because of the kids, though I love them more than my life. But because I love you. Because you're the strongest, most remarkable person I've ever known. Because I choose you. Today and every day. Tears streamed down her face. You broke me, Declan. I know. You can't just buy your way back with a ring and pretty words. I know that too. She smiled through her tears. Then ask me properly. Understanding dawned. He knelt in the snow on her balcony, this man who'd once been too proud to admit mistakes, now humbling himself completely. Isla Brennan, will you marry me? Will you give me the chance to spend the rest of my life earning what I threw away? Will you let me be the partner you deserved all along, the father our children need, the man worthy of your love? Inside, two small faces pressed against the glass door. Rory and Sienna, holding their breath. Isla looked at the man who destroyed her, then rebuilt himself piece by painful piece. She saw a year of showing up. Of choosing them over everything else. Of becoming the father their children deserved. Of changing not just his words but his entire life. Yes, she whispered. But hurt us again. There won't be an again. I choose you. All three of you. Every day for the rest of my life. He slid the ring onto her finger. Through the glass door, they heard two children cheering. Rory and Sienna burst onto the balcony, and the four of them embraced in the falling snow. A family, broken once, now whole. If this story touched your heart, I need you to know something. Redemption is possible, but it requires more than apologies. It requires action. Consistency. Humility. The willingness to rebuild trust brick by brick, day by day, choice by choice. Drop a comment and tell me what lesson you're taking from this story. Hit that subscribe button if you believe people can truly change. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to choose what really matters. Because the greatest success isn't measured in billions. It's measured in the people who choose to love you back after you've learned to love them properly. 2 years later, the Christmas card showed a family of 5. Declan and Isla married. Rory and Sienna at 9. Baby Finn, born exactly 3 years after that Christmas Eve proposal. Declan Mercer ran Mercer Global as co-CEO with his wife. The company had transformed into an industry leader under their joint vision. But he did it from a home office, between school pickups and soccer games and ballet recitals. The penthouse was long sold. They lived in a larger brownstone now, close to Isla's mother and the life that actually mattered. Rory no longer tested whether his father would stay. Declan had proven it too many times to doubt. The man who'd once fired their mother on Christmas Eve now made pancakes every Sunday and never missed a school play. Sienna's heart had healed completely. She starred in every school production, and her father sat front row at every single one, often the loudest cheerleader in the audience. Baby Finn was the symbol of their rebuilt love. Born from trust earned and promises kept. His older siblings doted on him, teaching him about science and stories and the importance of family. On a quiet Sunday morning, Declan stood in their kitchen watching his family. Isla making coffee. Rory explaining orbital mechanics to Finn using breakfast items. Sienna directing an elaborate story with the salt and pepper shakers as characters. This was wealth. Not the billions in his bank accounts, but these 5 people who'd given him the greatest gift of all. A second chance he didn't deserve but had spent every day earning. Isla came up beside him, slipping her hand into his. Happy? The happiest I've ever been. Good. She smiled. You've earned it. And he had. Through consistency. Through choosing them over and over. Through becoming not the man he was, but the man he should have been all along. Here's what Declan learned, and what we all need to understand. Success without people to share it with is just expensive loneliness. Money can buy comfort, but it can't buy back lost time. You can have billions and be bankrupt in everything that counts. Pride costs more than you think you can afford to pay. But redemption, though hard, is possible for those willing to do the work. Women like Isla don't need saving. They survive what would break most people. They build empires from heartbreak. They raise children alone and turn pain into strength. When they choose to forgive, to give second chances, it's not because they're weak. It's because they're strong enough to believe in transformation. Children forgive when adults can't, but only when the change is real. When promises become patterns. When showing up isn't occasional, it's absolute. Rory and Sienna gave Declan the gift of their trust because he proved, over months of consistency, that he'd truly changed. Time is the only currency that matters, and it's the only one you can't earn back once spent. Every moment with your children is irreplaceable. Every breakfast, every bedtime story, every ordinary Tuesday is building a life that matters more than any quarterly earnings report. Real partnership isn't one person saving another. It's 2 equals choosing to build something together. Isla didn't need Declan's money or rescue. She'd already built her own empire. She chose to let him be part of their family because he'd earned that privilege through humility and dedication and love proven through action. Declan Mercer walked into that boardroom 2 years ago thinking he was negotiating a business deal. He was wrong. He was negotiating for his soul. His family. His life. And he won not through power or money, but through surrender. Through admitting he'd been wrong and spending every day proving he'd learned. Through choosing love over ego. Through showing up. Every single day. That's redemption. That's what coming home really means. Not returning to what was, but building something better from the broken pieces. Not erasing mistakes, but learning from them so profoundly that you become someone new. This is your reminder that corner offices don't keep you warm at night. Quarterly profits don't attend your children's school plays. Business empires don't hold your hand during medical crises. People do. Love does. Family does. Choose wisely. Choose often. Choose what actually matters. Because some mistakes give you a second chance, but most don't. And the greatest tragedy isn't failing. It's succeeding at things that don't matter while failing at everything that does. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. Thank you for believing that broken people can heal and wrong choices can be redeemed through relentless effort and genuine change. If this story moved you, if it challenged you, if it made you think about your own choices, then it did exactly what it was meant to do. Now go home. Hug your people. Tell them they matter. Show them through your choices, not just your words. Be present. Be consistent. Be the person who shows up. Because that's what love is. Not grand gestures or expensive gifts. Not corner offices or impressive titles. Just showing up. Choosing right. Every single day. For the people who matter most. This is Mr. Steven Stories, reminding you that the best stories don't just entertain. They transform. They challenge. They show us who we are and who we could become. Until next time, choose love. Choose family. Choose what matters. Because in the end, that's all that really does.